I wanted to hop on. I know that James is getting in here right now and getting rocking and rolling today for Coffee and Contracts.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. How's it going?
Great. Today is great. I slept for like 10 hours, so I needed that. I feel powered back up, So
Cheers for sleep. Give me some of that. I definitely did not sleep last night.
Oh, no way. Yeah. I can't do much without good sleep, that's for sure. I can go like a day or two with pretty bad sleep, and then I need a week of like good sleep. So
I love it. I love it.
That's where I'm at. So
well, we are on this morning, you guys, because we want to talk about something really important, and it's called taking market share. So I know both me and James have been in the market a little while. However, James, you weren't in when the market corrected last time, right? You weren't in
it was just starting to, like, it was still pretty far down,
Yeah.
And there was still not a lot of movement at that time. So I was getting in right at the end of the crummy time, and it was just starting to pick back up.
I love it.
Yeah.
So one thing that I have heard from any agent that went through 08, 09, 10, 11 was if you were in it and you stuck with it, you came out on top. And I think that's the biggest thing, for anybody. There's a lot of talk right now. I mean, I was looking at the message boards. I don't know if you're on some of the local boards, but like looking at the message boards on Facebook and things like that. And I'm going, wow, this looks like it's pretty bad. Like this is not good. This is, the sky is falling, everything's crashing. And that's just not the case. So it's, it's having an understanding of things are changing, but the reality of like what's actually happening. So, being you have a little bit more back in the day experience of understanding what that really looked like when the market was kind of crummy. Obviously you came out on top, but what did that first year look like in that? Just, obviously some people are struggling and it's like, is it always going to be like this? And we know it's not.
Yeah, I think one of the toughest things was just hearing about what happened in 2008, what happened in 2007, over and over and over again, and the equity that people didn't have in their houses. So you just have to make adjustments and talk to them about settlement sheets and what they would actually be coming out with, and is this the best time to sell? And I think the biggest part of it, as a real estate agent, was building that skill set, right? So for the first 6 months of my first year, I made $0. And then the next 6 months, I made $50,000, right? So I had 24 closings in my last 6 months of my first year, which was just crazy. And what that was just building up the skill set, right? So building up my calling, building up my sphere of influence, building up my funnel for leads that were coming in. So really what I used my first year was to build a foundation and to move forward.
And I feel like that's like the biggest hit, right? Like anybody that I know that didn't build a foundation, like they came in, they were just like, oh my God, everything's on fire. And then they ran back out, right? It wasn't versus like, okay, where's the bucket of water? Where's it coming from? Whole mindset didn't happen and they left the industry. And I know so many of them that are kicking themselves now, like people that were licensed are like, oh, I let my license go because I was in 08, 09, or I got in, which some people, they're like, I got in 07 when everything was great. Does this sound familiar? Anybody that got into the business like the last year, right? Everything was great. And then it wasn't. So like for you, obviously I'm on the East Coast. I'll talk about mine too, but what are you seeing on the West Coast when it comes to, I'm going to talk numbers, right? Like how many houses are coming on, what's going off? And I know it's going to be for your region, but what are you guys seeing?
Yeah, so a big thing for us is what California is doing, right? Because the majority of our buyers are from California. So they're starting to slow down quite a bit over there. And we're taking offers on contingency on houses in California that have been on the market for a couple of weeks and haven't been selling. So that's kind of scaring our sellers right now as well. And then you don't have that huge influx of cash buyers.
Yep.
So for my market specifically, Prescott, which is different than Phoenix, and we can talk about Phoenix a little bit because I know a little bit about that market, 40 to 50% of our transactions are cash. But with those California buyers not selling their houses for as much money or at all, we're seeing that lessen and lessen and lessen. So we're down about 30 to 35% on transaction count. I was talking to a couple of my lenders. They would usually have like 50 to 60 closings a month, right? They're at like 10 and 15 if they're lucky. And my transactions for my real estate team are generally right around 26, 27 a month. Last the last 2 months we were at 14 and 15 deals. This month now we're back up to like 24, 25 deals. So we're definitely seeing stuff, just like anything, we had to adjust ourselves. Like we had to do more follow-up. We had to, make sure that we're doing more calls. We had to go after it. So when you're looking at a numbers standpoint, we're definitely down. Phoenix is taking a pretty big hit. Their inventory is jumping by about 1,000 homes per week or so. And ours is at 1,000, kind of leveling off a little bit, but we're also getting into the winter time, so a little bit different.
There's a few different seasonalities. Have season of the economy and then like actual seasons.
My thing is I think come February, March, and April is when we're really going to see stuff adjust, right? Because everybody's expecting that springtime surge, which I'm sure we experience it huge. And I think that's just going to be a total different thing. I think by the end of the year, they're going to call for a recession and and that'll be interesting. But here's the thing, people still need to sell, right? Cancel and expired listings, put themselves on the market for a reason. And if they're still motivated, you can give them a call. A lot of people are going to stop doing those calls because they're just like, want out of this, right?
It's almost like a, well, why bother kind of thing. Like you just all up in the air, like, oh, why bother with any of it? Because none of it would work, or it's bad, or how can I speak positively about that? So like for you guys, like think positive on this. Like James didn't say nothing is selling.
Yeah.
He said things have shifted, right? So like stop having that mindset of, oh my God, nothing's going to sell. I'm going to fail. Why even try? I picked back up on some expires and FSBOs and got appointments set just the other day because you've got to dive back in and hustle and hit those hot leads.
I think the number one thing to think about also is like, if you've been in the business for a little bit, whether that's, 2 years to 10 years, is what can you readjust in your business right now, right? Who are you aligned with that maybe you don't want to be aligned with? Who do you want to go after? How big do you want to get the team? Is there been some leads that you want to look at or different technologies or whatnot? Now that's a little bit slower. Take that time to really build stuff up. And the one big thing that I wanted to, and it keeps coming to my mind and then popping back out while we're talking, is look at this as such a great opportunity, not only for like your real estate sales, but also that like there's other people leaving the market right now. And you're going to see, 30% less agents. My biggest problem with my real estate business was how many other agents were coming into it, stealing the business from me because they're the cousin or the uncle or the friend, right? I think the other thing is you change your mind shift right now to think about what can I invest in too? Like, is there going to be a good deal coming in? Is somebody going to call me to list a property that needs to be dumped? And can I pick up that property at that point? So
100%. I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, because that's kind of the topic for today, right? Like, how are you going to gain market share? And it's really, I think it was slated I'd read it a couple of weeks ago, so I'm going to quote the wrong numbers here, but it was like several, like, I think it was like 50% or 20%, some obscene percentage of real estate agents were going to be out of the business within the next year to 2 years. And it's not necessarily because they just completely failed. Some may have, right? They're not on these calls. They're not listening in. They're not doing the activities. But at the same time, when things are good, everybody wants to jump on board, right? Like, for example, Bitcoin was going bananas, 40,000, 50,000, right? Everybody's like, oh my God, it's going to hit 100. And where is it now? I think it's it's under 20, right? Yeah. And now you've got people jumping ship. Well, this is what happens in the stock market. It's what happens in the economy. It happens in any industry, including real estate. When things get tougher, people peace out. The problem is they're backing out at the bottom, right? If you really want to get out at the top, but they're coming out on the bottom, which means they're giving up. So here's the cool thing. You guys can't control everybody around you, but you can control yourself and your own actions. So being in rooms like this, taking advantage of trainings, and really owning your time where you're doing the things that need to be done, that's where you're going to take over market share. And just an explanation of what market share is, right? Because that sounds really high level. You've got this much of a market. And as agents are being removed from it, that means there's more of the pie to go around, which means you can take over additional market share. The person, like James said, like that was going to use my cousin, my uncle, my sister's best friend's brother who's in college and just got his license, right? Like these people are not going to be available anymore. Yeah. But if you're positioning yourself, you can be that person that's available.
And to kind of put it in perspective, I mean, if you lose 30% of agents and you lose 30% of transaction count, then there's a win there somewhere, right? Like it's kind of almost evened out in a way.
Well, it's uneven right now, right? And I think that's why a lot of people are panicking. It's like, but we're still getting sales. Like, for example, I just pulled it up because I wanted to quote properly. In our area, so we're in Charlotte. We've got a pretty big region because we take over the mountains as well. So we've got, like, if you were to drive it from one side to the other of where we cover an MLS, it would probably take you like 4.5 hours. So our new listings coming to market over the last 7 days is 1,200. Here's the interesting part. There was 1,100 sold. Now here's what's even more interesting. 1,400 had price decreases. So what that's showing us is, okay, yeah, we've still got consistent. And by the way, I've been tracking this for weeks. I think we started tracking it back in May because we saw things starting to shift. We started trying every week what's going on. The new listing count has remained almost the same. What's changed a little bit is the sold count and the price decrease. You guys remember what it was like the last 2 years? What was a price decrease, right? Like I'd go online, it would be like 7 houses had a price decrease. And I'm going, okay. And it's still going to sell because people are paying whatever they need to just to get a house. Yep. So you also need to be well-versed in what you're saying, right? Like I'm sure you go through this. There are buyers that are not getting the right information, right? They're getting the CNN Fox News version where the sky is falling and this is not a good place to put your money right now. Yeah. Quick question, James, financial free agent on the call. Yeah. Is real estate a good idea at any point in time?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I love it. I mean, I bought 2 properties recently. But they're the right deal. So as long as they're the right deal, that's what I'm telling my friends and my students and the network that I have, keep that mindset of you can buy properties, like there's still properties out there for you to pick up and buy.
A lot of people don't look at that. They're like, oh, well, but the interest rates are high. Yeah, interest rates were high in the 90s too. They were actually higher than they are right now. Yeah. But guess what? What would happen if you bought a house in the 90s and you look at it now? You'd be sitting on so much equity in that house. It'd probably be paid off. And you could have refied like 4 times and brought the interest rate down. So it's not like your clients need to understand. And it's amazing to me. I have some very brilliant people that I've worked with. They don't know this, right? Mm-hmm. We assume our clients just know this information. Most of them don't know. So be the educator. So that kind of takes us into like, I made a list today actually of some stuff that we wanted to share with you guys. But just completely on this topic, 3 major things you guys can do to be taking over market share. When you can't control who's leaving, right? You can't control how many people are able to be pre-approved for a house because we've been used to this very crazy market for 2 years. Everyone and their mother could get a pre-approval, right? And we thought that was the good time. Personally, and James, you might have a different opinion on this. I hated it for my buyers. I felt so bad every time I told them they had to put $20,000 down cash, non-refundable if they wanted the house. And no, it didn't matter really what the inspection did because if they wanted the house, that's what they had. Yeah, I mean, what was your take the last 2 years? I know I might be unique in that.
I thought it was nuts. I mean, for me, I'm always a negotiator. I'll try to negotiate everything, right? But you're at a point where, you're a real estate agent. So people come to you for advice and they come for you to have their back and be their bulldog, right? Okay. And basically you're just like a dog that will, it's going to pee right next to the person that comes up to them and do whatever they want, basically. Yeah. So it's, you had to do whatever the seller basically wanted. And it felt like you were being taken advantage of and it felt really unfair, but everybody was having to do. So instead of being like a good negotiator for your client, you're basically just asking the seller's agent, like, what can we do to win this? And what do we have to give in order to make this happen? Like you staying there for 90 days rent free. Like we negotiated one of those deals. Yeah. I was like, this is just insane. And my clients would be like, what do you think about this? And I'm like, I mean, do you want me to be honest? Like, I think it's ludicrous, but do you want this house? Yeah, we really want this house. We love it. It's like, then that's what you're going to have to do to buy it. At some point in time, this is going to change, but right now, this is what you have to do this. So, yeah.
And that's what it is. You got to do what you got to do. The cool thing is, which I was talking to Pride Festival in Columbia, South Carolina this weekend, and the kinds of conversations that were started were very intriguing because people don't know what's actually happening. So I told them, I was like, this is actually probably one of the best times to buy. Here's why. We have lender partners that can get you a lower interest rate. I would say the agreeability of most sellers, they want to sell their house. And no, getting it at a lower price is not going to help you as a buyer unless you're buying with cash. But if we can make a win-win where you're still paying a reasonable price, not over appraisal, and you can now get cash from a seller to help you with your closing costs, that is a huge win. Huge win. I said, you can get that. You'll probably get repairs. You'll get all kinds of things. I said, I know you feel like you missed the boat the last 2 years. That's just because there was hype surrounding that. At this point, That's not what it's like. Now you actually get financially ahead. And here's the other thing. In every market that I've talked to, even with you, I talked to you about this the other day, the actual values are still going up, guys. Like, tell your clients, like, the values haven't dropped off. They're seeing price reductions and getting scared about it. The price reductions are because things were so grossly overpriced that now we're getting to a normal price where the market is truly dictating what's happening. But it's still going to go up 8 to 10% in the Charlotte area, probably going to go up at least 8% in your area. So there's still the opportunity for equity, but unless you're like someone who plans on selling their house every 2 years.
Yeah. And that's what so there's an old timer that's been selling real estate here for 50 years. And I think it was, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago, I asked him, I'm like, Stanley, when do you think we'll ever get past those prices in 2006, 2007? He goes, oh yeah, James, no doubt. Like, we always go up above what the old high was, down below, and then right back past the old high. And it happens every single time. And a year and a half after, or actually a year after that conversation, I sold the first house that had been sold for more than what it had sold for in 2006. And I was like, holy crap. I came home, told my wife, I'm like, this is crazy. Like, right? I just sold a house for more than it sold for in 2006. Unreal. It's going to happen. You know, you buy now. And me and you, I don't know if you've looked at this, but Arizona, North Carolina, and Florida were the 2 highest equity gain states. And you're in North Carolina and I'm in Arizona. So we saw some pretty crazy prices.
It was a little insane. It was a little insane. Yeah. I'm sure you price your houses out as well. And I'm pricing some of mine going, oh, wow. Even some flips, which even now we know are still going to sell for far more than we anticipated. It's like,
yeah.
Okay, I'm here for it. Like, I'm not going to argue that. That's fine. But being realistic, you know, if we listed it 7 months ago, I would have slapped an extra 10K on it and see what happens. Now it's, all right, let's go 5 to 10K under what we feel be appropriate, get enough people in, and then sell it. So having that strategy.
But the other thing too is, I think more important than anything is condition of a property as well, and presentability. Is what I'm finding is those houses that they're well kept, they're, you know, they have the updates and they're easy to show and whatnot, are the ones that are still getting pretty close to list. And in some cases they're still.
Now for you guys that are watching, I know we promised you like the top ways to actually gain market share. We kind of already covered part of it. The market's shifting, agents are going to get out, but there's actual action, you know what I mean, James? Action is what's really going to get you to the other side. So the 3 actions that it's really going to take. So I would say your first thing, and we're always going to focus on not go pump money in advertising. Like, I will admit, I do pay for leads for my team, but that's not our main backbone. But if you have reviewed any team, any large producing agent, like that's really pumping it out, a lot of them do pay for additional leads. That's not where you start. You start with a foundation and then you build. So anybody that's telling you just go throw money into something, don't do it. You've got to build this muscle of knowing how to handle that and how to grow. So I would say number 1, send handwritten notes to everyone you know and reintroduce yourself. Now I know you're probably sitting there going, yeah, that's lame. Like, why would I do that? I literally spent like $100 on different, like, I always get the nice ones. I like the nice ones because they feel good when you get them, right? We've got the branded ones, but that doesn't say, hey, I'm actually like reaching out because I care. That's like a, hey, look at my brand, right? Yeah. So I go on Amazon, I get the 48 pack of Hallmark cards, blank inside Hallmark cards. They have a colored envelope, so it's always different, right? What do we get in the mail? What happens when you get a colored note card, especially when it's not your birthday? It's like, oh my God, look, someone cares. So I bought a bunch of them and gone back to basics, guys, even me, right? Sending out a bunch of handwritten notes, but it reintroduces me to them. Like, maybe I haven't talked to them in forever. Maybe I feel awkward calling them out of the blue to be like, hey, remember I'm in real estate, right? Send a nice handwritten note. I was thinking of you. I hope you're doing great. I'm going to do better at following up. But it gets you back in front of them, right?
And generally, what that's going to do too is you're going to get a text message or a phone call like, oh, thank you for that card, you know? And I just did that. I just had my assistant do that for me as well. And what we do, Kaila, is we drop in forget-me-not seeds in there. And people love those forget-me-not seeds, you know? It just kind of one of their little staple. But I just got done doing that with my team, sending out this.
But it works. And I do the same thing when I get a thank you note or just a thinking of you card. I'll text, or I usually won't call the person. I'll text them usually at least, but be like, oh my gosh, that was so thoughtful. Thank you. I love this card. So just take the time. You know, even if you're prospecting, you guys, I don't know if you do this, James. When I'm prospecting, even like cold leads, if I get them on the phone, I have a conversation, I send a handwritten note. Like, whether I got the appointment or not, I send a handwritten note, kind of commenting on something we talked about. Maybe they said their dog just turned 5. I don't know. just coming up with something. Hey, I'm so excited. 5 years with your pup is so exciting. Hopefully he gets a, bon appetit for dinner, blah, 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 and send it out. But it's something that's like, oh, this person actually gives a shit. They only hang up. They're going to harass me for the next 6 months. They actually care. Like, they took the time to write a card. It took us 30 seconds. My assistant helps with this, right? I'll just put the note in and he'll just go write it up real quick and send it out. But at the end of the day, that's what we need, right? We need that extra touch. So for you guys looking to find that edge, do what everybody's not doing. It's one of the things no one's doing. So do it.
It'll make a huge difference. People love handwritten cards too.
I love them. I'll start sending them to you too.
So do I.
We can be better friends.
That's why I like them. Yeah.
So the next thing I would say, number 2. So obviously people are going to get out of the business. You can't handle, that's not something you can help. Less people are going to buy you. That's not what you can help. We're going to focus on people who can, but send those handwritten notes. Number 1. Number 2, provide value and information, right? We've been harping on this for the last do a monthly call, video, do an email, right? We don't want to avoid the phones. The phones are where you're going to really make the conversions. And I'll tell you a fail story of myself, not doing the things we say to do. And then we're like, oh, that's why I say to do that. And that's why I always do that. And that's why when I didn't do it, this happened. But getting that information out there, you're not going to get a response like a thank you note, right? Like you send a thank you note, you're going to get the text back. Most people or some people, that was so thoughtful, thank you. But when you're sending information, your goal, and if anybody wants to see an example of this, check out what I've been dropping in our Masters in Real Estate group. James has been dropping that. There's also some on our personal pages where we're informing agents, but we also do it for the public. So we're also sending these video emails out every week where it's, hey, here's what's going on in the market. Here's how you get a better value. Here's what you need to know. Here's why the sky is not falling. They need someone who's in the industry that can actually be a voice. And if they don't have that, where are they going to go? The sky is falling, right? We always go to the negative. Like most of my YouTube videos that have the biggest reviews or the biggest people that are commenting are like, don't move to Charlotte. Charlotte sucks, right? And it's a pro-con video, but what do they want to watch? The cons. They want to see what's really wrong with Charlotte. It doesn't actually turn out to be a very negative video, but that's what people are drawn to. So unless they're getting that positive influx of real information, they're going to go somewhere else, period. I mean, I'm sure you get that too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think doing those monthly calls are huge. And the videos I've been posting on my Facebook and whatnot, I've been getting some great traction. I've had so many people reach out to me like, thank you for doing those videos. They're helping me out a lot, or it's good to see what the market stats are doing and whatnot. So I think as long as we can keep people educated and keep them informed on what's happening in our market to us when they're ready to do something, and other people have dropped off, and I know this has kind of been the theme, is like people dropping off, right? And us staying in front of them. And the reason is because it's the truth. And that's what's going to make the biggest difference, is building your foundation, building your audience right now for when things shift. Because as soon as they shift, then people are going to want to start trickling back in. But if you can get the bigger piece of that pie at that point in time, there's going to be less. You're not going to have such a big chunk of that eaten or taken away. So follow that up with your phone calls with your A team, those main people that support you. And then do your bomb videos and your Facebook or Instagram videos as well. People watch that stuff even though they don't like it. Like hit the like or comment button, they're still watching.
I was just a snippet, but it's the consistency though, right? So everything we're telling you guys, it's all about consistency. Like you can't just go, well, I wrote 6 today, right? We were talking last week about sending CMAs. Okay, you sent 5.
Yeah.
That's not going to get you where you need to go. Even everybody starts turning to, well, I'm going to start paying for some online ads or some online leads. That's awesome. 1 in 100 convert within the first 2 to 3 months. 1 in 100 convert in the first 2 to 3 months. Now, here's the thing. If you're consistent, will everybody end up buying at some point? Yes. And will a higher percentage start to convert? Yes. But if you want now business, it's going to take you doing each of these things consistently.
Yeah.
Me and James want now business. We call people. We hammer the phones, but we're still doing those passive actions of sending CMAs, sending handwritten notes, being in front of people, doing pop buys, which I only do pop buys for my top people, my top clients, because I'm not zigzagging all over, Timbuktu for 450 people. That would take me weeks. But your top people, stop by, drop them a pumpkin. Hey, how's the kids? Here's a cool pumpkin carving kit. Have a great Halloween. Something. Yeah. There's always ways to stand out.
Absolutely. And I think one of the biggest things that you can do is when you're in this part of the market is just stay consistent. So if your goal is to send 5 CMAs, but you have something going on, send 1. just send one,
Yeah.
make sure that you're just doing at least one. Stay consistent. There's a guy, this is a story, he lost 55 pounds in a matter of a year or something like that, 60 pounds. The first 3 months he lost 0, right? But what you do is you just go to the gym, walk in the door every single day. And it was just consistency, getting him used to that one activity. And then it was 5 minutes, and it was 10, 15. But he still lost that weight of what he wanted to do. So staying consistent and staying disciplined is going to be so huge. I hate to say this, but I do believe that it's true. And my wife always gives me a hard time. But even when I don't want to jump on the phone or I don't want to work, those are the days that I force myself. Because if you let those little failures build up, they're going to lead into one big failure. And if you build up on little wins, you're going to have one giant win, which could be financially free in 5 years, right? Depending on how fast you're stacking those wins. Or it could be the reverse, where you're out of the business, depending on how fast you're stacking those losses. So
that's such a good point.
So stack your wins, even if they're small. And a win to you, like if you're really busy and you didn't want to do that CMA, but you did one, you're still going to feel really good about that. And you're going to be like, damn, I did that yesterday. I can do it now. Yeah.
And the easier you realize that it is, the first time you do anything is going to be the hardest. It's going to take the longest. It's going to be the biggest pain in the ass. The more you do it, the more consistent you get. And then it becomes easier. Like the first ones that I was doing in a batch, because I'm a bit of a perfectionist. By the way, perfection makes you broke. So I fight it constantly. But taking that action of going, okay, well, I've got a roundabout price for this person. Again, I put in the note, this is an estimate. I haven't seen your house in 6 years. I don't know. It could be worth more, could be worth less, but this is information for you. And once I got into that rhythm, it was like phones in, cranking them out. This week I'm doing 20. So it's, it's just keeping that perpetual motion. But even when I started my YouTube channel, right? It was just, okay, at least get one video out a week. Consistently do it. Now I'm up to 3 a week. So it's, it's that growing. But if I started at 3, I probably would have burned out and been like, this is way too much. There's too many steps. There's too many things. But now that I can be more consistent with it, that's where my key is. So I love you saying that. It really is just pick it off a little bit at a time, then grow. Third, because I know we've got you guys for just a few more moments. We're going over, but number 3, got to prospect. Like you've got to add new people to your database. I was even shocked the other day when going through, there were friends of mine I didn't have in my database. I was like, how are they not in here? Like they've come to our events, they've done this. Like, don't go through and do this major project where it's like an audit of your database. Like get that. Just start chunking out and calling people and start adding people, like someone from the grocery store, you have a business card, you're doing cold calls. But if you build it and you consistently touch them, there is you taking the market share. Because these other agents that were maybe met them once, they're not consistently sending value. They're not consistently following up. They're not even sending so much as an email. That's like an auto drip. They're doing none of that. So who's representing these people when they buy or sell? It's going to be the person that's in front of them when they decide.
And I'm a firm believer in if you add 10 to 15 new contacts 4 to 5 days out of the week, that you can make easily $250,000 to $300,000 a year by doing that. And that's just 10 to 15 new contacts, right? That's canceled, expires for sell-by owners, some circle prospecting. The prospecting is going to be huge. And again, people are going to drop off of prospecting right now because they think the house is on fire, so they're running the other way. One thing that you just said is like prospecting is not going to get you the gal or the guy, whatever,
By the way, you're never going to think of that the same. You're going to think of like half-naked firemen every time you prospect now, aren't you?
Yeah.
Like just firemen with no shirt on running it.
Right. But what I think is like you could get your spouse through that. And the reason is because if you're doing that type of thing, you're staying consistent, you're showing success in that area of your life, you're going to build confidence in yourself, you're going to be more talkative with other people, and that success is just going to breed other success, which is going to breed a bigger network, which I already had her, but in order to keep her, I had to become the person that I am today. And I do think that prospecting helps with that. So I know it sounds really weird, but it does.
It got you consistent in a few different things, right? So you kind of explained it earlier as just do one step. Just do one step every day. And by doing that, it was, okay, you did one step, then you did another step, then you did another step. It was like those incremental parts that as you grew as a person too. Because now you've got other things, right? Like the kids, you've got schedule. And this as a schedule. And it's not being an overscheduled person. It's being really purposeful with time, which as you guys start really exploding in your business, you're going to have a moment where you look back, you're like, I don't have any time to connect with people. I don't have any time to do this. And you're going to try and find that. If you are doing these things consistently, you're not willy-nilly just, taking life as it's being thrown at you. There's things that I have to go, nope, block, where normally I'd catch it and go, okay, this is now my problem. Instead, I'm going to push it away and either delete it or give it to someone else, or say, well, I'm not handling it today. That's another day kind of challenge, and you're going to have to start figuring that out. But having too much business can become, right? Like, don't feel bad when you're like, wow, I feel like I'm overwhelmed and I've got all this business. I should be really grateful. It's okay to feel overwhelmed. Like, we have both gotten to that point.
Yeah, I mean, I did for sure. We had 73 escrows in 1 month in 2020 of August, and I had a bunch of my team members, admin. They're all upset. They're like crying and whatnot. They're like, not all of them, but some of them, and they're like, I'm just so busy. I don't. And I'm like, would you rather be crying because you're too busy or because you're not busy enough? Like, this is just a cycle, and things will end, and then we'll be on the other side of the pendulum. So let's just take this. We're gonna have to work really hard, but there's gonna be good money made on everybody's side. Just keep pushing, because this will end at some point in time, and then we're going to wish that we had worked as hard as we could have when that time was there. And what did I do? I pushed really hard. I pushed my team really hard, and I'm in a good spot. They're in a good spot. As long as they save their money, they're in a good spot. But be grateful for that work that's there. Just know that it's temporary, and that you'll get more into balance, and then you'll go back and forth. But that's what me and you are here for, is to help other people not have to pay the dumb tax of.
Well, we've got so many more things we can dive into, and definitely join us next week for our coffee and contract. Starts at 10:30 Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be going over some more fun tactics, and we're going to take a poll. For those of you guys that are watching live, go ahead and drop an L. If you're watching the recorded, drop an R. I'll make sure I say that at the beginning next time, because I know some of you guys dropped off. But we want to find out from you, what do you want to learn? Because next week we're going to dive into a little bit of tax strategy, because you need to start preparing now. Actually, you should have started preparing 12 months ago, but you need to start preparing, because taxes are happening, and it doesn't happen in March. It starts now. What are the actions you need to take to make sure the amazing earnings you had in 2022 do not go all? So thank you for logging in. Happy Monday. We will catch you guys next week.
Yeah. Thank you, Kayla. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Later, guys.
Bye.